All right, welcome ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode with me, HOKA, HUI with HOKA. I've got a special guest today. First time we've got like the full audio video setup going. My friend, training partner, whatever partner in crime, Tim Stevens. Introduce yourself, my friend. Kia ora.
Kia ora, man. Lovely to be on. I'm Tim. I'm a professional content creator, so that's why we've got the audio and the lights set up today. 2 kids, married, and been training at Core MMA. For those of you who don't know, is a mixed martial arts facility based in Waikato in New Zealand. Been coming here for about a year now, and yeah, excited to be on the show, man.
Bettering yourself.
Oh, 100%.
Nice. Sounds really good. So the thread that we created for today, I was trying to pinpoint a few key elements of Tim's life, which are the military that you attended from a very, very young age, you know, teenage years. Then you dove into the deep end when it comes to media, like being involved with that, creating a career path for yourself. And then obviously going into mixed martial arts, core mixed martial arts in the Waikato in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton, New Zealand. And as far as I remember, you did it's called Wim to Warrior. They changed the name.
Yeah, they changed it to Train Alta.
Yeah, so it's basically, how many weeks?
16 weeks comes to mind, 20 weeks. A couple of months. About 3 months.
So you pay a flat fee basically to get trained up to have a amateur fight in mixed martial arts, which I was fortunate to help him prepare and corner a little bit. This is where the connection comes in.
I was fortunate. Everyone keeps saying how much of a good corner I had.
Yeah, well, it makes, it's a detail, but it makes a difference. And that's another, life-changing experience for you, in your life thus far, young life still. But let's get into it. So it goes from military to media to mixed martial arts. That's the path up until this point in your life that you've been on. This is how it all links together. But maybe let's start at the military, because if I did my homework the right way, you entered when you were 17, is that correct?
It is, yeah.
And that's pretty young, to dive into the deep end there. Any hard life lessons or experiences that come to mind from, being shaped through that at that age?
It was interesting joining in the military, getting trained on how to use a weapon designed to kill people before I was actually legally allowed to drink alcohol. It felt very strange. The interesting lesson I learned was it's quite possible to fall in love with an idea more than the reality of that activity.
Right.
And that was the very first time in my life where that came to fruition in my life, where I was just like, oh, I don't like this. So my basic training, I got halfway through and I quit. And that was my life's dream as a kid growing up. I was always in army stuff, out in the field playing guns. And everyone, what are you doing after school? Everyone's going to uni. I was the only one in my year that was like, I'm joining the military. So everyone was just super excited, and so was I. And then halfway through, I was really just not vibing it. Let the stress overwhelm me and then dictate what I should do. And I decided just to pull the plug and quit and go home. And then had the repercussions of everything that follows on from that point of guilt and giving up, and then seeing people who completed it finish the course and go, that would be me if I just stayed in there. So for that year, I just worked part-time jobs and I still wasn't done. So later on that year, I reapplied again. I applied into the Army Reserves. So instead of jumping right into the deep end like I did, I decided, all right, we'll just take a step forward. We'll join the reserves and we'll see how we go and see if I can make a career out of this, or it's best of both worlds, you know?
You said that was triggered from your childhood, maybe. You said, I was always in military clothes, weapons, some sort of guns,
Yeah.
At some point, every boy, girl, whatever, like a banana turns into
100%.
Pretend play. But do you remember like a certain moment, like watching Rambo on TV or something, being like, oh, that's what I would like to do? Of course, there's another narrative to this, because it's the media, you know, the media portrayed. Let's take Rambo for example, because we all know, you know, the headband and, you know, the curly hair and sweaty, firing the machine gun and whatnot. That's not quite the reality, but it's enough to like catch on.
100%.
Is there one of those moments in your life?
There's a few of them. I think it all boils down to a person in my life. I won't go into detail. Was involved in the special forces part of the army, and seeing this person on a regular basis and spending time with them, not really hearing about too much of the military, but watching him, you know, play video games or getting some of the old equipment that he doesn't need anymore, getting, as a kid, dressing up, and we would play games together. And it was just, I don't know, I looked up to him. You know, it was someone in my life who I greatly respected. And obviously the military comes with its own kind of cool factor, if you want to say that, as a kid, you know, like if you're in a uniform and you hold a gun, that's pretty cool, you know, when you're 10 years old. I think largely from my desire to join the military comes from being exposed to just some of that at a young age. And of course, everything that happens in movies and video games adds to that. But I don't know, there wasn't really one moment. It was just kind of just there. And I remember telling people, oh, this is my plan. I'm going to leave school. I'm going to join the army. And then I had a plan to be a medic. And then I was going to get the army to pay for my studies to become a surgeon. I was going to make lots of money. And that was the plan that I told everyone. And then I joined the army as infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, shit, this is actually way harder than, like, it's not as cool. Like in the movies, they're like, yeah, we're going on this operation. And they're like, they skip the whole like 5-hour walk with like 30 kilos on your back. And they're out there and then they're shooting guns and that's stressful, man.
But once again, they have to sell the idea somehow, so they might leave out some details, you know. It's something that we're going to get into later on, is like content creation and like getting people hooked on something. You can't tell the truth completely, you know, otherwise, you know, it's like...
100%. And even if you did, people might interpret that in their own way. But yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later.
Yeah, but I'm just like going back to like, imagine being 17 years old. That's where... everything else in life becomes a bit more interesting. Girls, booze, you smoke your first cigarette, you know, like all that weird stuff where you're like testing out life. And then all of a sudden you go to the military where it's all about discipline. You have to follow orders. You have to get up early, you know, like I guess that created certain habits in your being that still live on today, even though you quit for like a short period of time and then you went back into it. Am I correct?
100%. Yeah, it's a great place. Like I would always recommend to anyone, if not sure what they're doing with their life, if you don't have a degree or something you want to study, if you don't have a job you're going into out of school, join the military, join the reserves, join the Navy, Air Force, join an organization that's going to teach you some of the fundamentals of how to prepare a meal, how to present yourself, how to get up on time, how to make your bed. These small things that seemingly seemed annoying, like, have you made your bed, Timothy? Oh, no, I haven't, Mom. It's a little different when there's a big sergeant standing in front of you. Have you fucking made your bed? And if you haven't, then the whole team gets punished. So you learn very quickly how important that is. And it's probably only now in my life where I've realized how important these small routines, they don't just do it for no reason. It shapes your psychology. It shapes the way you interact with your environment. If you're coming home from a hard day's work of training or life, kids, family, and your room's clean, wow, what a difference that makes to then be able to then do your night routine so you're prepared for the next day.
Yes.
And more of that became apparent once you get into the field and your training or in operations. You need to be organized. Where's your stuff? Everything needs to be put into place, because if you need something and it takes you 60 seconds to find it, and that's the difference between your friends having someone shooting at them for 60 seconds or not, it's a very long time to receive fire. So you need to be fast. You need to know where things are. On time is too late. 5 minutes early is on time. These principles are great to just take you off in life.
Interestingly enough, you get trained for something completely different, like firing a handgun or whatever it is, you know, in combat to prevent further harm. But how you translate that into your daily life, you know, then it becomes actually super relevant, because reserves are, you know, what are the odds that you're actually going into battle? You still get all the benefits without actually doing it. Yeah, but any particular lessons like experiences that if you close your eyes maybe even and have a think, that like stand out from back then, that like shaped you forever, like maybe a little story or something that comes to mind?
Yeah, there's a few little bits and bobs that come out, and it was where the basics really became important. I'm talking about weapon drills. Before you even get a chance to fire the weapon, you have to spend a couple of days learning how to dismantle it. Things like clearing the weapon before you enter a building, making sure that procedure is done correctly, how to load it correctly. And there was one instance where we were on a training exercise and we were part of a mounted reconnaissance unit. So that was, a light armored vehicle, or a LAV. Has a turret and a gunner and a crew commander, and then 6 to 8 soldiers in the back. And there was 6 of those versus another 6. So we had to set up shop. So we call it a harbour. And we dig in, the infantry dismount, and we hide everything and get all camouflage for the night. And our objective was just to hold this ground. And we were told that there might be an enemy that's going to try and do surveillance on us that night to gather some intel on us to attack us the next day. And just at dusk, when the sun was going down, we were eating our meals cold because we couldn't cook. It was too loud, noise discipline. And I was just looking out in the distance. It was pine forest, so I could see down like the long alleys. And for some reason, I saw something move, but like slowly going down. I wasn't sure. I was like, hey, Corporal, I think I've seen something out there. Like, I don't know. I really want to go check it out. I said, all right, let's go. So we told the guys we're going to go and have a look and see what this thing is. Chucked our night vision on because it was a bit dark now. We're walking closer and we're walking closer. And then just when we're about 50 meters away, the enemy was there. They had night vision too, but one of them accidentally flicked their night vision too far to the side on the settings, which then displayed like an IR light, infrared, which makes your night vision more, it's like a torch basically, but you can't see with your eyes.
Okay.
But if the other person has night vision, then they can see the torch. So I saw a quick flash, I'm like, oh fuck, there's people there. So I was like, all right, Holt, who goes there? And we didn't hear anything. And we heard like a twig snap, and then we just had their machine gun just open fired. So if it was real bullets, we probably would have just got chopped up, but we returned fire. But whether my basics failed me is my gun went click. We call it a dead man's click. Because an hour later, before the sun went down, before we implemented noise discipline, we were told, load your weapons. And I tried doing it really quietly, and it didn't fully action properly. I should have just let it slam at home. That could have been the difference between returning fire and hitting the guy and not getting shot. But in that instance, my basic weapons skills let me down, and dead man's click came into play.
I guess that just shows that the devil is in the detail.
100%, man.
You can do all the training, get everything right, but if you miss one part, everything could turn to custard very quickly.
Very quickly. We're running back and I'm trying to run and sort this weapon out, and while we're getting fire in the dark as well, night vision, like trees everywhere. And he's yelling, and you can hear all the labs starting up, and they're coming out, they're driving over the trees and returning fire. It was pretty nuts. The other time was I had a full magazine of, this was a live exercise with real bullets.
Yeah.
This is probably my most like Call of Duty memory I can remember, as we were all riding up, and like there was like 6 labs in a line driving up. And in the labs is like a TV, so you can see what the gun sees.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see the targets, and they're shooting. Ching, 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 ching. All right, dismount. The ramp goes down. We all run out. And my magazine just falls right out.
Oh.
So we come out. I didn't lock it in correctly. We run out, live ammunition, and everyone's assaulting. So I'm not going back for that. So somewhere out in the Wodu training military area, there's a full magazine of live ammunition somewhere. Hopefully someone found it. But obviously a new one and crack straight into it. Not the most life-threatening problem.
But still, like, is your mindset in training mode when you do those drills, or does it feel real?
It feels like sparring. It feels very real. Yeah, like especially live ammunition. It's not often we do it wasn't very often. I did a lot of live training with real bullets, with people and labs shooting live rounds as well next to you, which if you've never been to a 30mm Bushmaster cannon, it makes your heart thump. So you're trying to focus on what you're trying to do at the same time. You don't want to get too close to this thing in the dark because it will just run you over. And they're sending rounds. You got tracers. You're in night vision, so you've got one eye. So if you want to look, you've got to turn your head. You don't have peripheral.
Yeah.
And you can't aim properly. You've got a laser. And then you've got to run and hit the ground. You know, make sure your pockets are closed. That's one skill I learned really quick. If you leave any pockets, you're jumping and running, well, your shit's just going to fall out everywhere. But it feels very real, you know.
Definitely. That's why maybe that, you know, taught you something, because today when we set up the camera, the audio, the lights and everything, and we organized all this, you know, to have like a proper space, everything that you came in with was like properly packed. Everything was like neat in a spot, you know, like it was like bam, bam, bam. You knew instantly where what equipment is to like utilize it straight away. So.
Everything has a home. That is the number one thing that's followed me outside of like all this discipline and whatnot. As a content creator, I've got a bag just like I had in the army, and it's got all these little bits of equipment that serve a purpose, and I need it really quick. Oh, the fight's about to begin. I need that lens cap. It's in that pocket. And if it's not there, it's not on me. It's
a good transition into the next question I want to ask you is, you know, those life experiences, they create habits. So the habit that you created from this is basically you're very neat with your belongings. You know, you have a place for everything, you know.
I try to be.
You know, we all thrive for whatever, perfection, or, you know, to be a better person or to have our shit together, as they say. But if you could change or forget about a habit or trait from that time being with the military, which one would that be and why?
Smoking, because it's going to kill me.
Okay. Is that still like, even you see it in the movies, the guys on the tank, you know, like enjoying it?
Not to that level. You're not allowed to smoke within a certain radius of live ammunition anymore. So you would never see someone sitting on top of a tank chuffing on a dory, not from the New Zealand Defence Force anyways.
Okay.
Maybe when it's out in operations and things are a bit more, I don't know, loose, so to speak. But yeah, I guess it's probably less now, but people still smoke. And it's a morale boost, I tell you, man, when it's like freezing and it's snowing outside and it's 3 a.m. and you're doing sentry, and you shouldn't smoke on sentry, but you know there's no one out there. This is just a training exercise and you're freezing cold. Kind of warms your hand up a little bit, gives you a bit of a nicotine hit, helps you. But it is unfortunately one of those things that just feels good, but it's a bad habit. Okay. And it makes you tactically insuperior. Enemy can smell you, you stink, you know, if you go without this thing for a period of time.
And
you're not as
Vietnam,
effective.
a lot of people got killed through snipering.
Sure. Oh, 100%.
Because you see the...
Yeah, now you've got the heat signature. We have infrared. If you're fighting a conventional force like Russia, they have the capability to see a glow in the dark.
That's it, good night. Okay, good answer, I like that. Is there a moment in time throughout that experience with the military or after where those skills vividly saved your ass? I don't know.
Heaps. Like there's the knowing where things are and closing pockets. When you take something out of your pocket, if it has a zip, close it again so nothing falls out, put it back. That saved my ass more than I can count.
Okay. I give you an example.
Go.
Like, let's say you're out and about with it's a birthday party with your boys, you're in town, you know, you have a couple drinks, and someone walks up to you, starts an argument, and there's definitely some self-defense, combat-related training that you had to go through that saved you from getting hit, getting severe damage, something like that, maybe?
Yep. No, so we did a bit of hand-to-hand combat. Largely, most of our combat training was done with weapon systems like the Steyr or shotguns and machine guns. We did a little bit with our hands, but not as much as you would think. Granted, I was only in the reserves for a short period of time, like 3 years, so I'm sure full-time soldiers had a lot more. But what I was good at doing was making friends with big people. So there has been times where I have been in town and we've had confrontations with the local uni students. We're talking to a chick, she's his guy, he comes over, what's going on? Hey. Before I even know it, I've got like 2 big guys walking in front of me. I'm sorted. You know, like, all right, cool. I was very good at talking and making friends with lots of people.
I guess maybe that's the camaraderie that you create in the military as well, that helps you to make a bond with a person, to then become friends, to then maybe help you with something.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. It's the first place in my life where I was part of a team outside of like some sports as a kid. But as an adult or a young adult, being part of a team, and what that meant was when we're working or when that person needs your help, it doesn't actually matter how you feel about that person. Though those two guys, we maybe don't even chat very often, but they know I'm in the army.
Yeah.
Or they know me. Or this guy's a dick. But when we're training and when game's on, like this guy's, as much as I don't like this guy, he's an effective soldier. And I'd like to have him next to me. But outside of it, I don't agree with his morals. But it's the first place where I ever realized that when shit's on, none of that really matters. You can leave it at the door and we do our job.
Thank you. Camaraderie, I think that's the one, like being, you don't have to, it's the same with mixed martial arts training. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to get along, but the common goal is to, if you're a training partner, you're on the mat, you want to get somewhere maybe a little further with your skill set, and you just shake hands, get the job done, and afterwards, you can go separate ways. Even though I think that's not often the case, because usually that breaks the ice quite a bit, training with someone being so close up. But, maybe that comes up later in the conversation again, and we find a link to it. An interesting thing that I've noticed, and we touched base on this now before with like Rambo, like being portrayed as a certain character that does certain things in the military, or I remember Fury, Heart of Steel, where they sit on the tank and smoke, and it shows a bit of that camaraderie as well.
Yeah.
However, military war conflict is usually portrayed in a way by the media that is not true or creates a false sense of reality. You've been in both worlds. You've been with the military. You're now heavily involved with content creation, media, bits and bobs about it. How do you feel about this particular statement I just dropped?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something I've probably only started thinking about more in the last couple of years. Now I've really upped my game in the content space, or I've been more aware of it about what I'm consuming. It definitely happens for sure. Like if you think about movies, the way I look at them now is they're just higher-end versions of what I do. If I was to make content for a brand, I would ask, what are you trying to achieve? What do you want your viewer to do next? You're watching a lot of movies that have themes about political problems that are in the world, and they're taking those political problems and they're characterizing them into this person. This bad person represents the president of the United States or the big oil companies. In regards to like war movies, they always make it look easier than it really is. They have to for storytelling purposes, and the viewers won't understand the technical jargon. But yeah, they brush over a whole lot. Some movies do a really good job, like the movie Jarhead. There's not really a lot of action. A lot of it's centered around the mental state of the soldier and what he goes through his deployment, trying to call home, having him and Mrs. divorce him, break up with him, and just how much drama is actually involved outside of combat, just being away from your life. That gave a pretty accurate, not from someone who's actually been in a theatre, but
still, it leaves a mark on you.
Sure, it does.
Like I remember, sorry if I'm cutting in here, but I want to share an experience from a movie that I thought was just brilliant the way they displayed it. I'm not sure if it was Jarhead, but it was about a gentleman who goes into particular war zones to dismantle bombs.
The Hurt Locker.
Probably, I'm not quite sure. However, it goes along those lines that he goes in. Scenario is when you go into combat, it's dead or alive. That's you go in there knowing that your life could be taken away from you. Everything else that you do around it, is just to keep you alive, and hopefully you get home in one piece. There's this one particular scene where he then gets sent home to his family. I'm not sure how that whole thing came about, but he stands in this shopping aisle in like this big supermarket discounter, and he looks down this aisle, and the whole aisle is cereal. Like choice of cereal, different flavors, different colors, different everything, and he looks up and down, being so lost in having more than just one choice of like staying alive. All of a sudden it's like, what cereal to pick?
Stressful.
Does that even matter? And the movie switches over to him going back into Warzone, because mental state, he probably couldn't handle, this, what is this even, fabricated. pink, blue, whatever cereal that you can choose from, pineapple flavor and this and that. Is that necessary, or can't you like he was probably just eating oats every day?
Yeah, 100%.
Overstimulation. And I know that you coming from the media, you would enjoy that particular scene and how it's created and the mind state that creates from it, because you know it's, I don't know, probably 8 years ago that I watched that movie, but it was like so well made, had an impression on me. It's still with me, apart from, you know, being involved with shooting other projects and whatnot. You know, it's just they try to deliver a message through it. Like you said, the villain becomes just a significant figure of what they're trying to portray. Like put it in a nutshell, like you hate this person for reason X, Y, Z.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of messaging in movies that you probably don't pick up on until you've experienced a certain thing in your life, and that happens with age. You know, a 17-year-old me might watch that movie and miss that scene because I'm only interested in watching the action, because that's just a 17-year-old guy, right? You get a little bit older, your perspective of life changes, you watch that movie again, you resonate with that scene a lot more because you've learned, wow, actually I don't need all these options in this, I know what's important to me, this person's struggling with that right now and I can connect with that character. So you get a lot of messages in movies that actually talk to a different demographic of people, but it's up to that person, what experiences they've had. For sure, you'll get movies that are literally just recruiting tools, and they're trying to just make it look as cool. Like, I mean, movies that come to mind, like Top Gun. That was such a massive recruiting tool for the Navy. When the first one came out, they went through the roof, and I'm sure the same thing happened again for the Top Gun Maverick that just released last year.
Smoking, same thing. Putting that in a movie. Either way, that's a different topic, but it just shows how powerful it is. And that basically leads to my question: what is your motivation and objective? Like creating all this content and maybe creating a narrative for someone that wants to portray, could be a product even. You maybe know, like, how does that work for you? Like, what is the why?
How do I come up with ideas, or why do I do what I do?
Both?
At my 21st, I decided it would be a good idea to get up in front of everyone and proclaim that I was going to pay off my mum and dad's mortgage, and I was going to be a millionaire before I'm 30.
Right.
Still a little while to go to get to $1 million income every year, but it's a matter of time before that happens. So that's my overall goal. Is
it's the path.
100%.
It's the path that matters.
To get to the end, have enough money to be financially free, but that's my gold medal, so to speak, and it probably won't end there, but to be able to say...
Don't say that. You're going to end up doing it.
Oh, I will.
Remove that.
I will get $1 million. I mean, what I mean is then when I get there, I'll probably be like, 10 million. But
thank you.
In my life, I want to be able to say, some people want to say, hey, I want a gold at the Olympics. For me, I want to be able to say, hey, I'm a millionaire. And here's what I've done in my life to help many people with that money and those tools. That's why I do it. Right. Now, how I come up with ideas is a little bit harder than just saying it. Having to has a lot of conversations, a lot of understanding about, first of all, where is this content being posted? Because that will dictate what we can say and how long we have to say. And you know, if it's going on TV, it has to be shot a certain way. We've got it's a 30-second time slot. We don't have 5 minutes. If it's social media, we have longer. But then if people aren't sticking around to watch, do we really have that much time? It really just comes down to having a good conversation with the owner and the brand and deciding what's their objective. Are they trying to just make sales? Are we trying to drive people to a website? Are we trying to just educate people on the message? Are we trying to inspire them? You know, do they already know this business and they want to do business with them, but something's holding them back? But perhaps this message is going to connect with that person in a way that they didn't know that that's what they were about. And I actually want to deal with that person, because people deal with people. You know, they don't want to deal with robots or a computer. They need a brand, they need a face, they need to hear the voice that they're going to be talking to, especially brands, the companies like real estate, for instance. Good luck selling a house without meeting someone face to face and doing a virtual tour. I'm sure it happens at a high level of investing where it doesn't matter as much, the numbers are more important.
Yeah.
But for your average person making the biggest investment of their life, they're going to want to physically see someone that they can trust. And that will come down to that person and the way they talk, the way they present themselves.
Yeah.
But that all doesn't happen until they've seen them on a digital platform first.
Yes.
How does the video look? How does the content look? Does it look professional? Does it sound good? What's the audio quality like? How are they presented? You know, it's not as important now as it was maybe 10 years ago, because I mean, you could just pull your phone out and be dressed normally and talk, but if the value you're giving outweighs the low quality production value, then it doesn't matter. A funny joke shot in 720p is a funny joke whether it's shot in 4K. You know, that's what I always say to people is content, what you're saying, are you helping them? That's very, very, very important. Everything else comes secondary. So figuring out what that message is going to be. Are we going to try and help them with something? What's their problems that they need solving? Are we trying to inspire them, you know? Or are we trying to entertain them? Are we trying to make them laugh? Basically, my philosophy is if we can make a viewer feel something, then we're one step closer than our competition of earning their business.
But it needs to be relatable. You want to have some sort of reaction or emotion that like makes you connect.
Yeah, it makes them click follow, and then they're going to see more of it, and it'll take a few times before they then click contact me.
Talking about follow maybe, because a lot of your work takes place on social media. Like it's very quick, you know, you have those 30, 20 seconds, sometimes a minute, you know, like clips to like catch people, catch their attention and like make them feel, make them think, make them want to engage with the product, the company, whatever it might be. But let's ask in a different way maybe. What impact has social media as such on your personal life, because you spend so much time amongst it with your work?
Yeah, that's a great one, man. So when I first started, I went fully in one direction. I just did it way too much. I was on social media all the time. It started to adapt, and I wasn't just abusing it and unconsciously scrolling. Once I started deciding this is the kind of content I want to make on like TikTok or Reels, I started consciously consuming. This is where I started to become more aware about what it is I'm viewing and what I'm allowing into my head. Is this helping me get where I'm going, or am I just sitting here looking for a quick fix, a dopamine hit? Is that what I'm doing? And I started becoming more aware of when I'm doing that and why I'm doing that. So I find myself less, not always, I'm still susceptible, I'm only human, but I do find myself, I'm not wasting my time going, well, that was a whole hour, I just did nothing. Sometimes part of my job is to sit down and find ideas and find inspiration and save them, and I'm working when I do that, but I set a time limit for that.
I remember when you told me about finding the right song for a video that you created, and it took you forever. But it's a detail, and that detail matters in the bigger picture.
100%.
We can link this back to, you know, just not loading your gun properly, and then when the time comes.
Yeah, having the right service that has the right music available, getting ideas. Inspiration doesn't always come, as you know, you're an artist. You can't just be like, I need an idea. All right, this is the perfect song. So when I find ideas, whether it's in the supermarket, hear something on the radio, or I'm just driving, I'm like, that's a good idea. I'll often just hit record and blurb my idea to my camera, go into notes, do a voice memo, text it to someone. I need to capture that idea so that a month later, I'm like, you know what?
Someone once upon a time said to me, and there's a bit of knowledge shared here, that writing it down or sharing it with someone, even if it's, you know, through message, even, or just a quick Instagram, this and that, it's like a spider web. You catch the idea before it's gone. It's like a fly could, you know, buzz around all day. That's your idea. But if you catch it in the web, that's where you get it to utilize for later on in life and maybe create something out of it. Here's a formula that I want to throw at you. It's like an occasion.
Okay.
Combat plus media equals mixed martial arts interest.
Say that again.
Combat plus media equals your mixed martial arts interest. Because I'm putting this together.
Okay.
You come from a combat sports combat background that involves unarmed combat, self-defense, being with the military. Media, we talked about social media, you know, you can scroll through. There's so many things in just, let's say, a minute that you just take in. You can create a cool little video, you get hooked. That makes you want to do kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, you know, there's a whole hype around it.
100%.
Is that where your interest now for mixed martial arts comes from, other than walking into this gym, beautiful gym here that we're sitting at the moment, where you prepared for your first amateur fight? Where does it all come together?
Yeah, I think that's a great formula. It definitely does come there. There's a massive interest in me with things that are violent, even though I don't really come from a violent background. You know, very lucky to have 2 parents keep me safe. But for some reason, that part of my life is quite there's lacking of it, and I'm interested. So that probably may be something I experienced in the army. I didn't experience that for a very long time. You know, I left the army. It's probably been about 7 years now. And unless you're hanging around with people that like fighting, unless you're like in the streets or at the bars, I just never really saw a lot of violence outside of that space, or for that matter, hard environments that caused me to sweat or my body to react in a certain way, like stress. It's not a very stressful environment, there you go. And what I've noticed is I started getting weak. Physically weak. I could never really go to the gym regularly. It was just boring, just sitting there doing this. You know, sure, you chat to a friend, but then you end up on your phone chatting and not actually working out. You're not sweating. You're not leaving the gym sweating. Then you don't really get what you came for.
Yeah, I agree.
Not always. I mean, it depends on your objective. But if you're going there to build muscle, you probably need to break fibers, and you should be sweating at least to know you've done a really good job. And I just wasn't seeing that, and I felt myself just getting really soft, you know, like I don't know as well what to do in a physical confrontation. You know, if I'm with my kids, my wife, and then someone who's clearly intoxicated or just aggressive and decides that they want to step things up, or they want, I don't know, anything could happen. I had no way of knowing how my body was going to react, what to expect, like how do I think clearly when my heart's beating at 150 BPM?
Think clearly. That's the key.
100%. Like, now I know that, but at the time, I didn't even know what was going to happen. So I knew I needed to simulate some of that so that I could get some training. That and my media, this is where your equation's spot on there, is because that's my ticket to my million. This is my passion. This is where all my energy needs to go. And I hear a lot of successful people talking about jiu-jitsu and the importance of physical activity. And I figure, hey, MMA, it'll be fun. You know, it'll be a fun way to get myself in a stressful situation, meet new people, so my social muscles will be flexed in a fun environment. And
fun yet challenging environment.
For sure, exactly, yeah. And then all the benefits that these entrepreneurs are telling me I'll get, I will receive, and I've gotten tenfold more than that. Being around athletes is probably the most rewarding experience I found out of last year. It wasn't the fighting, it wasn't my physical appearance getting better and feeling good about that. It was actually being around and watching the conversations I'm listening to and engaging in change. And instead of hearing about, the Kardashians, the Labour Party, national and political, it was about, that was really good, Tim. I seen that thing. Oh, look at this cool move I learned. Wow, cool. And everyone's just building each other up. No one's trying to like cut anyone down. It's all about building up.
That probably happens too, but usually if you are in a gym with a good philosophy dynamic, they build like a good culture around it. That's usually what happens, you know. A bit of hate, a bit of doubt is everywhere, you know. And, you know, to a certain degree, I guess that's healthy too, because, you know, that makes you want to step up.
Yeah, competition.
It's competition, you know, it challenges you, it's provoking, but in the end of the day, it's how you perceive it and what you do with it, you know. It's given to you, however you filter it through your system, and what comes out the other end. That's completely up to you and your being.
100%. I would like to just double back to a question you asked me before, some of the effects that social media have had on me.
Yeah.
One of them is I give less of a fuck about what people think. Yeah. When putting something out into the marketplace for people to view, I like that piece of content. If it's for me, it's my personal content. If I like it, that's enough, and I'll post it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and obviously I have to film myself in public. You know, for a lot of people, that's strange, getting on camera, much less getting on camera in front of people, much less getting on camera in front of people trying to do something, you know, like it's a bit weird when you're trying to make a motivational video, you're trying to get the specific shot, and you're trying to look all sweaty and like tired, and you're acting. for this camera. It looks great when the video's finished, but in reality, when you walk around the gym, it looks weird. You know, someone's got a light set up. It does look abnormal, and a lot of people might talk themselves out of it out of fear of, oh, they're thinking I'm weird. So what? Oh, if you're weird, the shot's gonna look good and the result's gonna look amazing, and they're gonna see that and go, shit, that's actually pretty good. And then they won't care anymore. They probably never care.
No.
They're too busy thinking about their own life.
I tell you also why. It catches on. They're like, oh, he's doing his thing, you know, he does what he likes to do, and he continues no matter what. And then maybe it's infectious towards them because they do the same thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate to it, but you can see it through all walks in life, you know, happens everywhere. Tim, can I throw some keywords at you, and you just tell me whatever comes to mind? So it's either a word or phrase or just a combination of words, and whatever pops into your head, first thing, let it be.
All right, let's do this.
Competing in a mixed martial arts amateur bout. Courage.
Yeah, having the courage to follow through with it comes to mind. Having gone through the Train Alta program, starting off with about, I think, a dozen or so team members, and then by the end of that, 3 of us were still kind of showing up. 2 of us were really showing up. 1 of us kind of there, and then only me being the one who took the fight.
Yeah, I have to summarize this a little bit for the people who don't know. So the Train Alta Winter Warrior, once again, is a program where you pay a solid coin.
Oh yeah, like $2,300.
$2,300 to get trained by professionals to then have your first mixed martial arts amateur bout. Let alone, you know, all the training and all of that aside, while you're having 2 kids, you're an entrepreneur.
I started business. The day I found out about my fight was the same day I found out I was going to have to be self-employed in like 2 weeks.
There you have it. Some more adversity, you know, to just throw in there. Like I said, you're a husband, you've got 2 kids, you started a new business. The training is at what time? 5 in the morning?
Yeah.
5 till 6. All the other classes and everything else that you add on top is like up to you. You know, you don't have to show up if you don't want to. If you think 1 hour a day is enough, then...
no, it was 6 till 7 a.m. But I would show up at 5 and try and be sweating before my team members got there. Because ideally, I was supposed to be fighting someone from my class. So I wanted to psych them out from day one for the entire camp to always be sweating by the time they got to the gym and were warming up. Like, fuck, that's who I'm fighting?
Mental warfare.
Yes.
Haha, probably something from the military as well. But yeah, like all the other stuff in the afternoon and like on the weekends, and you know, this is when we connected as well. Like that's all optional. And you showed up to every single session like with courage, with interest, with the willingness, you know, to push it a little further. And like you said, there was a dozen of people, like between 12 and 15, if I remember correctly.
From the first few weeks, it whittled down to like maybe 8 solid people.
And Tim was the only one who made it all the way into the ring from all of them, which is pretty remarkable. So I want to shake your hand again, give you some credit.
Thanks, man.
That's pretty amazing. And you also won, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, like for the memory, who knows if you fight again, jiu-jitsu competition, whatever, you know, comes after. But that's, you know, it's like kissing your first girlfriend. You never ever forget.
You're never going to get that first. Yeah. I would like to take a moment just to say the result of that fight was, what's the technical term for it? A TKO?
Doctor stoppage.
That's the one. I really would like to take a chance to thank Conan. You were listening to this, mate. So I had a fight lined up, and in the week of fight, so fight week, the original fighter got concussed, couldn't fight, couldn't happen, and Armin and the team got to work trying to find a replacement. I'm a skinny guy, there's not a lot of guys my weight who are at the same skill level. They obviously had my safety in mind, didn't want to get, you know, paired up with someone who's just going to kick me in the teeth in like 10 seconds and knock me out. And Conan stepped up and was like, hey man, I'll do this. And so I had done all this training, and then if it didn't happen, I would have been pretty gutted. I think the fight still would have happened at some point, but Conan really made the day and was able to come and be like, yeah, I'll do it with like 3 days notice. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get his blood results in on time. So once he got a little cut, they had to stop the fight. So we only did 1 round together. So we didn't get the full 3 rounds. So yes, I got the trophy, But
No, hang on. I was about to say 5 minutes, but it was 3.
yeah.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. All that training, all that money, sacrifice, overcoming adversity for 3 minutes of your life. That changed quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
After. Courage. You boosted your courage. Second one, being an entrepreneur.
Misunderstood, I think, is the word that comes to mind, in the sense that it's a hot word that people like to throw around. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to be an entrepreneur. What that really means is you want to start businesses or invest in things. I think people think it means something more than it is, or they get attached. Their identity is I'm this. It doesn't change whether you run a business or you're an employee. I kind of view we're all kind of entrepreneurs. Some of us are just better than others.
Yes, that's true.
You know, we're all self-employed, but some of us just trade our time for less, or some of us trade our time for more. It just depends on where you're at and what you do for work and why you do that for work. You know, it's not always money is the value.
Yes.
You know, I would much rather be happy at a job paying $40,000 a year than be miserable and earn $400,000 a year. You know, the end goal is happiness. And
maybe you do that $400,000 job for like maybe 3 to 5.
yeah, that's it. Take a couple years, take some money, and then just move on if you're young. But
similar to training, sometimes you just gotta suck it up and go like. This is shout out to Ezra Bergen. He taught me this particular phrase. Sometimes you gotta push shit up the hill, and it's an important trait, to possess, because that will get you far, far in life. Not always. You need to know when to push and when to pull a little bit back. But there's some shitty times, and every Elon Musk and whoever, all the people that made a farm life, they have a lot of stories to tell when it comes to adversity.
Yeah, and I think too the word entrepreneur does cop a lot of flack, in the sense that it is tied to a lot of political problems that are happening in the world. We've got a lot of issues that are created from big companies, from men and women who will call themselves entrepreneurs. We have a lot of solutions in the world now because of people who have come up with, who have solved these problems, entrepreneurs, So it really just depends on, what content are you consuming? Are you always commenting on the stuff that's bagging the people you don't like, or are you engaging in the stuff that's building up and showing innovation and creativity? That'll dictate how you view the word entrepreneur and what you think of it. Is it a positive, is it a negative? It's a huge positive thing. Governments will never be able to fix problems because they're too busy worrying about getting re-elected. People who start businesses who don't have an invested interest outside of solving that problem or helping this group of people, sure, profit, the word profit's not bad, it's a good thing. They will be the ones who come up with solutions. Governments don't create the wheel, create electricity.
I think that's a whole nother debate to get into, but I get the point, and I think viewers get it too.
Yeah.
I need to cut you off there, because that's something that you can take and run off with
100%.
Into the sunset. How about being a father and husband?
A blessing. Yeah. Potentially being a father is something I feel like I've taken for granted a lot. It was a big surprise when we found out we were going to have our first kid together, so we quickly made some changes in our lives. I had moved city, and we just quickly tried to get things ready, buy the things, and in a way it was exciting, scary, very easy to then let that child become an inconvenience, in the sense now I can't do this thing because I have kids. And that's very easy to do, because there are a lot of things about your life you do have to stop doing when you're a dad. Well, you don't have to, but if you want to be effective, you can't be out drinking every single weekend. You can't.
I guess it makes you think about the factor time a little bit more.
Yeah. How
do you spend your time? Who with? What are you actually doing?
Yeah. What's your return on investment from that time? Is it smart? Is it not? But I think also too is I don't know about what it feels like to not be able to have kids. And I know what it feels like to not have the money I want. I want to be a millionaire. I don't have that. Oh, I really want that.
You will be, sorry.
Yeah, I will be. I don't have those things, and I know what that feels like, but I can get that. Whereas if you can't have kids and it's a biological thing, I'm sure there's going to be medical procedures that can help currently, and technology will advance, but that's a lot harder to overcome because you can't just decide to work harder. It's not as easy to just change your genetics or change something in your body as it is to say, I am going to start a business in the next 5 years.
Well, the tools, you know, that you have on your fingertips these days are way different to, you know, when just turn back the clocks 5 years. We talked about certain programs, artificial intelligence, stuff that helps you, you know, to your phone, Siri, you ask a question, it's there within seconds. You don't have to go to the library and get books out, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little different. So therefore, I mean, but, you know, the narrative always changes because even you have more access to resources, something else will come up and there is a downfall to it.
Yeah.
However,
if you were born without testicles, like no amount of information will ever fix that.
Yeah, maybe just take a skin graft and create like a bit of DNA out of that.
Yeah,
Anything, if you can think about it.
Someone has probably figured it out.
If you can think about it, it's probably out there. But yeah.
Can I talk on for a second?
A blessing.
Being a husband?
That. Please do.
Sure. Communication is the second word that comes to mind with that. Learning how to communicate with someone. Like when you're with one person, husband, wife, best friend, doesn't matter. When you're with another human and you live with each other for a sustained period of time and you share financial problems, you know, social problems, logistical issues, you're a team. You have to work on getting effective communication with this person. And that's something that I feel I've only ever been able to learn with being married or being in a relationship. You don't even need to be married, just with this person. And that comes down to you only know what you think you know. As a guy, I'm programmed to think certain ways. My wife, Sharina, is a woman. She's programmed to think certain ways, naturally, biologically. Now, it's up to me to assume, learn, okay, well, when I say this, how does she receive it? Because I know what I'm trying to say, but as a woman, she might be thinking another way or receiving it differently. Case in point is when men have man caves. When we feel down, we want to seclude ourselves. To a woman, that looks very, he's pulling away. So he'll come back. We've been reading books and, you know, there's information out there you can find, but if you're not willing to learn and be like, okay, well, maybe I'm not the best communicator, or I need to learn why is he doing this. And I did it and I didn't even know why I was doing it until I read a book with my wife. That's why when things get really cool and really close and intimate, and then eventually I just need some me time, I want to play some PlayStation, or I don't want to see you for a couple of days. That's why I'm not weird, it's not abnormal.
Nothing is, my friend. Nothing is. There is no normal, yet there's also no abnormal. It's just, it's all out there, you know? Like I said, if you can think about it, it's out there. Someone can probably relate to it. There's someone in a similar boat. You know, when you're in a room full of people, let's say even in class, you're a teenager and you want to ask a question. It's like, oh no, that's a dumb question. Like 80% of the class thought about that question. No one wants to put the arm up.
No one wants to be that cat.
We're all the same, just from a different slice, I guess. Yeah. But, you know, that just goes back in time. Let's go forward in time. Bit of a funny question.
Go.
Take your time. But hopefully long from today, but at some point it will happen because it's inevitable. You will pass away. What is going to be written on your tombstone?
I don't think I'll have a tombstone.
Oh.
But if there was a tombstone.
If there was, okay.
If there was. Well, that's a hard one. I don't know. I would almost want to say I wouldn't want to be the one to choose that. I would probably
Fair enough.
would want someone else. Like, I could think, oh, everyone loves me. But the reality is, I don't know what everyone's thinking about me, but when I'm not around.
Well, it doesn't matter. You choose what's on it.
No, I would let my family choose.
Okay.
Yeah. I would want them to be the, okay, what did Tim stand for? Because I could tell you what I stand for, but it's like branding, you know? Like, I could release all these things because I was trying you to make you think a certain way about my brand, but unless that's actually being received and I know, they understand it, they might be receiving it some way differently, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, and then I need that feedback from them to know, is that resonating? So I would want them to then think, all right, well, what did Tim stand for? What's his legacy? I would like to think it would be positive, but at the same time, like, it doesn't always have to be, but it probably would. You'd be some kind of family member to put something that was a shit cunt.
That's a mature answer. you should let other people decide, you know. I guess
I would much rather be
that's
scared.
a new one, you know. Like I tested that particular question with some of the boys, some of my friends, while we're having a meal together, and it was interesting what would come up. But no one was saying I would like to have other people choose what's on it. That's mature. I take it. That like changed my perspective now too.
There you go.
And yeah, man, I bombarded you with a lot of questions. So now you have the chance. That's one of the last segments of our conversation here. You can ask me one.
I get
you don't have to.
Question? No, I'm going to ask a question.
You don't have to. Otherwise, we just skip it and go into the next one.
I'm not going to ask the same question. That's such a cop-out.
No, you cannot.
No.
I think I should have said that before.
Yeah. You can't be like, oh, yeah, what about you? What are you going to write on your tombstone?
Anything up until this point, you know, is not really on the, like, let's keep it interesting. You choose something that you would like to.
Piece of technology that's made the biggest difference in your life, positive or negative, and why?
Well, of course, the phone.
Yeah?
Because all of a sudden, like, I feel like I was fortunate that I grew up completely. I think I had my first smartphone when I was 23 or 4, I believe.
Sheesh.
So I went through all my childhood, all my teenage years, up until, you know, I always, let's put it that way, I refused to use it for as long as possible. I remember the first time one of my good friends that I used to play soccer with back home, he used to work in like a mobile whatever shop, and they had one of the first iPhones he had on him, and he was like, oh yeah, you want to have a look? And I unlocked it, you know, with the swiping across, and I was like, man, that's witchcraft.
Yeah.
Take it back, you know. I don't want it. And then I think when I was, man, how old was I when I got my first, like, it was an iPhone. I must have been 23, I believe. But yeah, that definitely changed everything for the better and for the good.
Why did you buy a phone then if you boycotted it for so long? What made you pull the trigger?
Because I was curious to see what it can do and what my life would look like with it. And then it's like many other things that you think you don't need, they just take over and they just become part of your life. And man, I admire the people who can live without completely, because it makes your life to a certain degree much more convenient. But here's my point. My point is that I have lived my life up until that point, and I continue to do so in an inconvenient state. I've been training my whole life ever since I was able to walk. I was involved in, when I was younger, it was, you know, I started with karate and all that type of stuff. Played a bit of soccer, went into swimming, back to soccer, boxing, back to soccer, you know, then fully mixed martial arts took over. I know what it means to like have everything stripped of you and just being able to defend yourself with what you have, you know, like training hard, you know, like my teens when I was young, still, you know, like I have sessions where I like fully push the boat out and my joints are hurting. I get my face crushed in by someone that is, you know, absolutely legit killer. But knowing that I can do it without is enough for me to be like, okay, I can put it away, go for a walk, come back in like 2 hours, do something with it, and then yeah, because eventually you cannot avoid, you cannot shy away from it other than going and live in a cave.
Pretty much, yeah. We live in a connected world now, I guess.
You just need to know, when to pull, when to push there, when to utilize it. And I mean, today, technology and us sitting here recording this is gonna, we record through the phone, we have like other devices here. Is you got to go with evolution, and it goes with martial arts and military and whatnot. I mean, eventually, I'm assuming there will be no wars fought, you know, like through humans. I mean, we're gonna, you know, it's like sit on the remotes, but
get kids playing Call of Duty, controlling robots, maybe.
Yeah, when the Terminator comes back, who knows? But we shall see.
We will.
Tim, I wanted to ask also. Thank you for that question, by the way.
You're welcome.
Because we got together initially, many different reasons, you know, with the training and whatnot, and then I usually just do the recording for my podcast over the phone, but we're working currently on a project together for myself to kind of, let's say, portray me as an artist, you know, and utilize the phone and other platforms to like showcase what I do, the art that I do, and then I try to give back, you know, by giving a certain percentage to charity. Long story short, I got a hold of you. We are working together collaboratively but how can other people get hold of you? What is the service that you provide? Is there anything that you cut out? Would you videograph a wedding, for instance? You do products, that's what I know. You've done some imagery movies for like businesses and this and that. So there's not many things that I cannot think of that you don't do. I think you're a pretty open book, but what would you like to do? How can people get hold of you, and what is the service that you provide? Boom.
It's a great question. Instagram would be the best place to go. I'm still in that startup phase, getting websites and all that sorted. But right now, most businesses will see something on social media, and they'll just straight up direct message me on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
And then we'll start chatting. Services providing, obviously, video production is number one. You know, so that could be me coming to your business and filming it and then editing it. I've had recently, Mad Mike just got me to come and film content, and then he had an editor edit it. I also have just started taking on just editing projects. So if you're wanting to make social media content, you know, and all you have is a phone or a camera, and you don't know how to edit and do any of that stuff, you can just talk to it and then send me the videos, and I'll edit it, add the text and the emojis and all that stuff, and make it more optimized for the current social media trends for that.
Yeah.
That's quite a popular service I've seen people in my industry doing, because people don't have the time. They could, but they don't want another job of sitting here editing on their phone or editing on the computer.
Yeah.
It's just easier to batch it all up in one day and send it all off, and then the next week you've got an entire month worth of content come back to you.
Boom, done.
Yeah, easy as.
So let's say there's no barriers, no nothing. Like if you're open to, if someone presents an idea, you can put it into action somehow.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's via Tim Stevens on Instagram, Adapt Media.
Yeah, I would reach out to Adapt Media. Go onto Instagram, search up Adapt Media, take a look at the content, and then just hit message, and we'll start chatting and we'll go through some of the things that you need.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it could be a wedding. You know, I have never actually, disclaimer, never shot a wedding, but it is a goal this year to shoot a couple of weddings.
Boom.
So if you're listening to this and you're wanting to get married, and maybe your videographer's just dropped out, hit me up. We'll work out a rate. It's my first wedding, so it won't be a full rate. We'll go a little bit cheaper. But yeah, we'll do some good work for you.
Nice. Last section.
Yes.
The camera is yours. You can say thanks, give a shout out. You can maybe bring up another topic that we perhaps forgot about that you think is very relevant for this conversation, or we can just cut it here with, you know, you saying goodbye to whoever you want to say goodbye to.
No, I like talking too much. I've got so much to say. I think, shit, man, like it's been about a year since I joined Core MMA. And it's been one of the weirdest, I don't want to say the word weird has a strong meaning behind it, but like unpredicted benefits. You know, I had no idea that there would be so many lessons I would learn in learning how to fight with my hands, how then that's going to help me be a better dad.
Not just your hands.
Yeah, feet, you know, mouth, head, brain.
Your head, your heart, yeah.
You know, like coming in, I would come out to the gym, I park my car here, it's what we use for parking, I would look at it, I don't know.
I don't want to go in.
I don't want to go in. I'd walk up to the door to try and look, it would open, people would stop and look, oh crap, you know, you have an idea of what it's going to be like. My employer at the time, he trained here, so I would hear stories and he would tell me about the benefits, but eventually I pulled the trigger and actually did it. And it's been the coolest experience in the sense that, yeah, there's been a lot of lessons I've learned through this, through putting myself into a stressful situation that translate into the real world, different understandings, even to the point of watching the same movie again and going, I connect with this person on a different level now because I've put myself through that kind of stress, so I know what it feels like. Oh, he's freaking out, he's about to have a fight. Whereas previously I had no idea, you know, and I would just be like, I don't know, it just wouldn't mean, that scene wouldn't mean as much to me now. And I've really thoroughly enjoyed the social aspect, you know, coming into a gym. Like you said, it can be, obviously, people are individuals, and when you get enough individuals, it can be, a culture can create it. What I've noticed, especially amongst the fight team here at Core MMA, is how quickly everyone was keen to help. I'm not sure, what that was, or whether it was like, hey, we've seen Tim here working bloody hard, we love that, we want to help promote that kind of activity. But going up to yourself, going Ethan, Ezra, Bill, everyone was like, yeah, sure, I can help you out, man. Oh, don't worry about that. That's cool. Come on Saturday, join in our class. Oh, yeah, cool. Yep. Oh, here's an hour with me in pads, you know, Harmona in the morning, you know, 5 a.m. till 6 a.m. Be me and him in the octagon doing sparring, you know, before, you know, that's an early time to start sparring, but you need another body, another human to work with. You can only go so far with a bag. And it's just been amazing to see how far people will actually go to help you achieve what you're wanting to do. And these kind of people, this winning mentality of helping people around you is what I want to do more, be around more. So yeah, if you're thinking about joining an MMA gym, go do a trial class, check it out. Like,
if you live in the Waikato,
come down here.
Core Mixed Martial Arts in Hamilton, New Zealand is the place to go. One of the top addresses in whole Aotearoa, I should say. Thank you, Tim, for elaborating on that and for the chat.
You're welcome, man.
And everything that we put together today. It's been amazing.
I hope it all comes together, right? We had to record a couple, stop and start a few times, but
don't worry.
Sure we can smooth that out.
We will smooth it out, you know. We made the most out of it. Thank you, my friend. I will talk to you again in the near future, I hope.
Yeah, man.
And I wish you all the best with the business.
Thanks, man. Thanks for listening, guys.
Boom! That's us.
Fantastic.